Good morning. Welcome to my presentation. I will be doing a marketing assessment on Uber. My name is Ryan Shannon. Let's jump right in. Uber was founded in 2009 by Travis Kalanick and Garrett Camp. The story goes they were attending a conference in Paris. Travis said to Garrett, "Wouldn't it be nice while they were waiting for a taxi if I could just hit one button on my smartphone, a ride would pick us up, we could pay the same way, it would be so convenient." And this is during the rise of smartphones. So this is a great idea between Travis and Garrett. Uber offers a variety of services from UberX, which is basic Uber service, to Uber Black, premium vehicles, as well as Uber WAV for wheelchair accessible vehicles. They also have Uber Transit, where they consult with local transportation authorities to streamline their transit services. Uber Health, moving patients, prescriptions, and even organs. Uber Freight, connecting people with larger loads with people with bigger vehicles like semis, tractor trailers, things like that. And Uber for Business, where business leadership can send teams to another location in another city and use one dashboard to track all of their transportation needs and uses during their trip. Revenue was in 2014 was $400 million for Uber. By 2024, 10 years later, it had risen 100 times to $44 billion. Let's look at the SWOT analysis quickly here for Uber. Some of the strengths for Uber, obviously convenience, that's a big one. They show up right to where you are. Market diversity and saturation, they're in a huge amount of markets globally, and they're very saturated. A lot of people rely on those services. They have no fleet, so they have nothing to maintain, nothing to break down. Few competitors. Lyft is their only major competitor, and they are only in the United States and Canada. And people need to move around, whether you're moving yourself, you're moving a product. People have to get around. That necessity drives demand in the market. Weakness, technology, both a strength and weakness for Uber. When it works great. When it doesn't work, everything comes crashing to a halt. Contractor reliance, you're relying on people you've never met. You're doing background checks, but how reliable are they? Surge pricing, when things the demand is much higher than the amount of drivers available, you're going to get surge pricing. Cultural regional impact, we'll talk about processing payments in third world and undeveloped countries. Opportunities for them, there's a huge untapped transportation and logistics sector. They are only moving a small portion of the things that need to be moved, and that could be huge for them. International service, the more countries that they get into, which is a big focus for them, the more they'll be able to sell their services around the globe. Government contracts are always lucrative, and governments are always needing to move things. Logistics is a big deal for governments, and that could be a huge opportunity. And disaster relief. We saw during COVID that the global supply chain is incredibly important. When it's disrupted, people will do anything and pay huge prices. So the more they can get into disaster relief, the better off they'll be. Threats, competitors, or lack thereof. Of course, Lyft is trying to compete with Uber, but having a lack of competition can sometimes develop complacency in companies, so they need to continue to compete there. Rising fuel and transportation costs, of course, as gas prices go up and other transportation costs increase, their prices increase, and that happens year after year. That's a threat to them. Technology issues, like we mentioned as a weakness, when it breaks down, that's a big threat to them, and if it doesn't work enough, people won't work for them and people won't use their services. And local cultures and societies, there's a lot of different nuances when it comes to transporting things, and so those are areas where they're going to have to tread a little carefully. Next, we're going to look at the 4 Ps. Of course, the product here for Uber is moving people and moving things. Their price is competitive, it's affordable, and it's priced to reflect the local market. So an Uber costs more in New York than it does in Colorado Springs, and it also costs more in places where fuel is more. Place. Uber's biggest strength right here, ladies and gentlemen. They are everywhere. Wherever you are, they are. Promotion. Of course, they're going to use traditional promotion streams. They have YouTube videos. They're in social media. You will see commercials for them. But one of the biggest places they promote is in their app, both on the employee and customer side. A lot of promotions with sales and other ways to get people to use the services. Now, I had a really incredible experience because I was actually able to work for Uber Eats in February of 2025 as part of this assessment. Overall, I made about $15 an hour after my expenses, gas, and everything else. So it wasn't necessarily about the money. The biggest positive for me was the flexibility. I could go for 2 hours at a time. If I wasn't feeling it, wasn't having a great night, I could stop my shift and be done. The flexibility was amazing. Their app was easy to use. Their reward structure was great. That was a big positive for me. I continued to move up the more I delivered and the more rewards I got. It was kind of like playing a video game in that way. It was really fun. High level of coordination. There are times when they would send me to 2 restaurants that were close to each other and then 2 houses, 2 customers that were close to each other as well. That level of coordination is difficult to do. I was impressed by that. But big negatives here, wait times for orders. I would wait 30 to 40 minutes for an order sometimes, sitting in a parking lot, twiddling my thumbs, not wanting to drive around and waste more gas and thinking to myself, I could be using this time in another way that's more positive, and I'm not able to do that because I'm sitting waiting for an order. I also documented the issues I had with the apps. I wanted some data to come out of my experience, and I documented that 1 in every 7 deliveries I got, I had some sort of issue with the app. That could be sending me to the wrong place. That could be freezing and not allowing me to take a verification picture. That could be the network dropping off. One of the bigger issues I had was in places I didn't have service, I couldn't take pictures of the drop off to verify that I had dropped it off. It became quite frustrating. Competitive positioning. Uber's biggest competitor is Lyft, so I wanted to give a little comparison. In 2024, the revenue for Uber was $10.7 billion. Same year for Lyft, $1.4. 8 or 9 times higher just in revenue. Closest competitor. In 2024, Uber gave 11.27 billion rides as compared to Lyft's 800 million. Not even close. Not even in the same realm. Number of cities serviced in 2024, 15,000 for Uber. Their closest competitor, 806. Uber has positioned itself as a leader in the development of the technology that drives ride sharing and logistics and the sleek, modern service that moves people and things. They've only expanded their offerings in recent years, and their brand has grown internationally. They increased their revenue over 100 times from 2014 to 2024. Marketing effectiveness. Uber hired Wolf Olins, a marketing brand and branding giant and genius, to kind of come up with their brand strategy. This is a quote from them that I really like. "We first developed Uber's overall position as a brand by establishing the concept of Uber as a global mobility OS, global. A seamless, endlessly supportive platform that puts people, vehicles, and goods in motion around the world." Things that were really important as part of that branding were having a low error rate, high convenience. All the messaging that happens in-app, so you're able to reach customers as well as employees through the app. That's how effective their marketing has been, and this has been their brand position, and it's a great brand position to have. Global, all around the world, mobility, we are moving things, and we are an operating system. Opportunities for improvement, and I have a couple ideas here for Uber. I experience 14% of the time problems with the app. That is something they could increase, but because a lot of the times that was a network connectivity issue, it might be smart for Uber to start thinking about partnering with network providers or even building their own cell towers that they could then lease out and make a side income of money. So I think that they could obviously work on their tech and make their tech work better, but they could also expand their reach in terms of network connectivity by building towers or partnering with people in that realm, companies in that realm. The next would be EV operations. The lower fuel costs can be, the lower the price for their services, and the more competitive they become. They could expand into untapped global regions, and they could develop more payment technology. And that was what we were talking about with India when we learned earlier in the semester that a lot of people in India don't have a bank account, so that makes it very hard for there to be any kind of debit, any tap to pay. If Uber can develop some of those systems and they can expand into those regions, billions of people could use their service. That's huge. And increase vertical integration in logistics. And what I mean by that is Uber could control the fuel. Uber could create the vehicles. Uber could have many other services related to logistics so that they could be vertically integrated and they could be the logistics people. Anything you need in logistics, they could provide. I think those are some good opportunities for improvement for Uber, but overall, Uber has captured the market. They did not turn a profit for the first 5 years from 2014 to 2019 and had hundreds of billions of dollars invested. But at this point, that investment money has created a strong foundation and should propel Uber into the future. Also, based on everything Uber is looking at in terms of diversification, from consulting to moving anything that needs to move, I think Uber has a very strong chance of being very strong in the future. Thank you very much for coming to my presentation. My name is Ryan Shannon. This has been Uber.